Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. And isn't this delightful that Liz Cheney could be under federal investigation for finance violation, finance election violations? That is my love it. I'd love it when I see these corrupt politicians actually maybe laying in a little bit of hot water. Of course, we know she isn't a full-blown Democrat, or at least in name, right? So she might actually have to face some consequences on this, and we'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And this is from The Lives That Live said. We had a story of death from last week as well, or yesterday actually. Liz Cheney about to be under federal investigation. A massive misstep could land her in legal trouble. That's right. After our crushing defeat, she may be facing even a bigger loss. Losing by staggering 38-point, Republican Representative Liz Cheney spent the last few years personally attacking former President Donald Trump after Trump suggested the 2020 election was settled with some rhinos in the GOP, much like Cheney claimed that there was nothing more than a sore loser as Joe Biden became the most voted for president in history. After January 6, right. Cheney landed a cushy job on January 6 committee trying to place the blame on Trump. With her attention always on Trump, it appears that voters and why don't we decided to vote for someone willing to put them first. But while Cheney lost, apparently she might have violated Federal Election Commission rules due to letting a former ABC News president film her concession speech. You know, the one where she claimed to be Abraham Lincoln and U.S. Grant. That's the same speech. This was all, of course, produced for her because she has aspirations of possibly, I don't know, maybe milling out and a View, MSNBC, CNN as an entry to get a job as a part of her application, part of her resume, if you will. Well, on January 6 committee, Liz Cheney worked alongside James Goldston, former president ABC, to present the findings to the American and in fashion most fitting for television. In other words, an edited version of events that took place on January 6 as what actually happened. When JT Law Term Commission speech happened to be filmed by Goldstein's personal production company, according to CNN, an in-kind contribution and as a non-monetary contribution, goods and services offered free or less than the usual charge, resulting in kind contributions similar with a person or entity pays for services on the committee's behalf to payments as an in-kind contribution. A expenditure made by any person or entity, incorporation, consultant with concert with or at the request or suggestion of the candidate's campaign is also considered an in-kind contribution to the candidate outlet. Added the value of the in-kind contribution, the usual and normal charge, counts against the contribution limits as a gift as money does. Additionally, like any other contribution, in-kind contribution counts against the contribution limit for the next election unless they were otherwise designated. Cheney, surprisingly, might not be knowledgeable about the rules for the Federal Election Commission as she focuses her comparisons on Lincoln, the great and original champion of our party. Abraham Lincoln was defeated in elections for the Senate and House before he won the most important election of all, she said to reporters in Jackson, Wyoming, which were mostly Democrats. Lincoln ultimately prevailed. He saved our nation, and he defined our obligation as Americans for all of history. Before talking about one of the nation's top presidents, Liz Cheney's harped on her obsession with Donald Trump. The path was clear, but it would have required to go along with the president's lie about the 2020 election. It would have required that I enabled his efforts to go unraveled our democracy system, democratic system, and attacks the foundation of our republic. Yeah. Well, listen, I hope you do get a visit from the FEC, and I hope there is some actual real consequence that goes along with that, because my goodness, do you deserve it? And, speaking of people involved with the FBI, check this out. Peter Strzok actually tweeted this out earlier in the week, and tell me this isn't ridiculous. Please open these. Keep asking how you can turn down the temperature in the country. And why does he have 2 passports? And this is Peter Strzok, referring to President Trump after the weekend, saying that the FBI had stole his 3 passports. And then Peter Strzok says the most ridiculous thing. The Russian passport, of course, is kept in a vault at Yasser Nevo and only swapped out at third country meetings. So it can't be that one. Peter Strzok still pushing the Russian collusion lies. Seriously, President Trump was the President of the United States of America. Why would he ever need to present a 3rd passport? That is absolutely ridiculous. We're supposed to believe that from Peter Strzok. But for some odd reason, we are racist or crazy. And people are labeled birthers. If they just doubts the official narrative about Barack Hussein Obama's origins, And why don't we still have access to his college records? And who paid for him to go there? I'm just saying things are not equal. And they don't go. They don't work both ways. Okay. One of the things that they're trying to do, of course, is to villainize everyone that has questions about anything that they do not like: government overreach, corruption, etc. But we're getting more and more words of corruption, and half-truths. Remember when they took down Parler? They had a Parler I have like, let me check here, says we're out. I think it'd be very interesting. Parler's dead. Who's on politics? Remember, they took down Parler in an absolute monopoly. This was the totally antitrust type of violation. But of course, we know how corrupt it is. They didn't do anything to save Parler. Well, check this out. The Secret Self-Service withheld from the U.S. Capitol Police Force a threat against House Speaker Nancy Pelosi related to the January 6 Capitol riot. Until after the event began. Okay, so the Citizens for Responsible Ethics in Washington crew published a report this week, including copies of emails from around the time of the riot that it had obtained between officials. One email from the Secret Service shows that at 5:55 p.m. on January 6, the agency was passing notification to the U.S. Capitol Police regarding the discovery of a social media threat directed toward Speaker Nancy Pelosi. 5:55 p.m., but kind of a little late, right? Secret Service had become aware of the threat made on Parler as early as December 31, 2020. This was a setup against Parler as well. Okay, almost as if this Parler post was written by a FBI operative or a flag of false origin operative on January 2, 4 days before the Parler account also posted about certain imminent deaths of certain people. Okay. And the next day it said we're on a mission to save America. And then it extolled the virtues of lone wolves and staying anonymous and staying alive and Second Amendment. It was almost as if it was a total Fed post. But they weren't. This information wasn't given to Nancy Pelosi until late. And then we saw Parler get taken down. Isn't that interesting? Or maybe we just caught yet another setup by the government against free speech, a competing platform to the Marxist, Twitter's, Facebook's, Google's, etc. But let's contrast with this. In New York City, man has gone free twice after making violent online threats towards Fox News personalities. And why? Because of lenient federal prosecutors. Jeffrey Rodriguez faced 6 counts, including cyber stalking and threatening interstate communications. According to the New York Post, but a federal prosecutor agreed not to pursue charges should he be sure he abstained from posting about the media figures for a year and attended mental health counseling. Rodriguez reportedly said hundreds of threats to the unnamed Fox personalities, in which he said he would get rid of them and some of their family members, according to the complaint against him that the Post obtained. He also posted residential information about them online. Divorce, he adopts them. The complaint does not identify who the victims are. Then he talks about skinning Nazis alive and all kinds of other things. And of course, he gets a free pass because we do not have a justice system. We have a system of injustice and favorites and the protected. Alright, Durham is objecting to classified info. That's all I can probably fit in the title. So let me tell you what this is all about. This is not clickbait, but we're finding out what Special Counsel John Durham is up to. He is still working on all this stuff in the background. Of course, I have zero confidence that anything's going to happen with Durham and what he's doing now, because a clear-cut case he lost because DC is made up of a whole bunch of compromised minor attracted sicko deviants elevated to judge's positions and other positions. DC is absolute filth. And nothing is going to come of it. Everyone's compromise or everyone is working for the other side and not working for justice or for we the people. Special Counsel John Durham has filed a motion to block Igor Chenko, a key source of the Trump opposition research document known as a Steele dossier, from using classified information as part of his defense at his upcoming trial. So what Durham is objecting to is the Schenck Goes legal team wanting to use classified information in their defense in the upcoming trial. Again, Durham is investigating alleged misconduct by the FBI, or is it really the FBI? Is it perhaps the FBI under the cover of some other agency? Once again, make sure you check out my special report coming up later tonight. Or other U.S. agencies while probing possible Trump-Trump collusion, and there was no Trump-Trump collusion. Now Russia-Trump collusion, or Trump-Russia collusion. Durham's team filed the objection under seal ahead of their case against the Genco, which is set to start in October. Durham was picked in 2019 by them for Attorney General Bill Barr to investigate allegations of misconduct by the FBI and other U.S. intelligence agencies looking into allegations of collusion between former President Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and the Russian government. Again, this is what's at the heart of the Mar-a-Lago raid. A one-page document accompanying the Durham motion states the government objects to the use, relevance, and admissibility of the classified information. This follows the Schenck-Goes recently filing a sealed motion signaling he intends to use classified information in his defense. By the way, it's not like he doesn't have access to it. The government has already provided the Shingles attorney with 5,000 classified documents and 61,000 unclassified documents. That's from as of this past spring. Okay. Once again, a reminder to Schenck was charged last year with repeatedly lying to the FBI about how he compiled information from British spy Christopher Steele's now discredited dossier about Trump's connection to Russia. He is accused of intentionally misleading the FBI when he denied on a 2017 interview that his primary source for part of the dossier was a former aide to 2016 presidential nominee Hillary Clinton. Was this stuff even FBI? You'll find out, or you'll get some clues to that. In the upcoming episode on our other channel, President Trump has teased that he's got a major motion after this ridiculous political raid on his home in Mar-a-Lago. This is what he tweeted out sorry truth out couple hours ago. A major motion pertaining to the Fourth Amendment will soon be found concerning the illegal breaking of my home Mar-a-Lago right before the ever-important midterm elections. My rights together with the rights of all Americans have been violated at a level rarely seen before in our country. Remember, they even spied on my campaign. The greatest witch hunt in USA history has been going on for 6 years with no consequences to the scammers. It should not be allowed to continue. And that is absolutely true. I've been saying it, there's been no consequences. That is why they continue doing what they're doing. And that's why they are going to continue to do what they do in the midterms. Because if you don't get punished for high crimes and crimes that everyone can see that happened a few years ago, then they'll continue to do it. There's no punishment, there's no consequences. Why would they not do it and get their way? So Trump did not give details, but let's remember that the Fourth Amendment protects against unlawful searches and seizures, not seizures, but search and seizures. Quote, the right of the people to be secure in their persons' houses, papers and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated and no warrants so issue, but upon probable cause supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. And we can see that stuff has been violated. Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhart, who issued the warrant, previously recused himself from a civil suit between Trump and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Some prosecutors have argued that he should have recused himself from the warrant application, and its failure to do so has given Trump legal grounds to contest the search. By the way, more lawlessness. The U.S. Marshal Services is reportedly preparing to limit the agency from holding illegal immigrants for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That now means that U.S. Marshal Services will be holding criminals and fugitives who are American citizens and residents, but not doing it for criminals that should be held. And they're making the rules against it. Marshals would be unable to hold illegal immigrants for pickup by ICE at the direction of an immigration warrant, also known as a detainer request. According to the Washington Times, even if the agency finishes processing on microphone custody, it must reportedly release a person even if ICE has requested a hold on to the proposed policy. This is all by design, folks, all by frickin' design. While officials claim the policy is still being drafted, based on an employee memo is already being implemented in at least one jurisdiction in Florida. The lawlessness already implementing things before they are completed or reviewed or approved are legal. Because everything is illegal, a double standard and a plan against America. Illegal immigration has increased under the Biden regime. U.S. Customs and Border Protection haven't counted a record of more than 2.2 million migrants during fiscal year 2022. So far, actually, I think it ends or just ended. Thank you for always watching and subscribing to the channel. Every channel subscribe